Hello, my name is Mike Davis-Marks and I'm the managing editor of the Veteran.uk and a director of Veteran Force. Welcome to an exciting new podcast series called The Veteran Voice, featuring veterans talking about their military experiences and what they did after their service, and in particular, how their transferable skills transferred from what they learnt during the military into their new civilian roles. It promises to be an exciting listen. Roll on. Hello and welcome to another episode of The Veteran Voice. And this is a different one. We're going to be interviewing not one person, but two. We're up in York. It's January 2026, and I've got two extraordinary people to talk to. The first is a 98-year veteran from World War II who survived torpedoes across the Atlantic and the Arctic convoys. And the second is the General Secretary of the Royal Naval Association. And we'll be talking to both of them during this episode. So my first guest is Ron Syson, 98 years old, veteran of the Second World War in the Merchant Navy. And Ron's got an extraordinary tale to tell. So Ron and Bill, welcome to both of you. Ron, I've been reading about your story in various publications, but let's go back to 1942,
Right.
at the age of 14 and 3/4, when you decided to leave your home in York, head down to the port of Hull, and try and join up in the Merchant Navy. Tell us about that.
I had no idea. I'd been at school in the daytime. I'd never planned anything because I didn't have anything in my head. I just, as I come out the gates of the school, started walking, and I just thought to myself, I can't stay here. I've got to go somewhere. I've got to do something with my life. And yet I was only a boy. I know that. I realised that. So I thought, I'm off to join the Merchant Navy. Why? I don't know. Only kidding myself, really. I want to see the world. I want to travel. I want to talk to people. I want to learn different cultures of different people. Because I was born abroad myself. My father was a soldier, a long-serving soldier, 22 years, 27 altogether. And I thought, I've got to do something. So I went home and I pinched a loaf of bread, cut it in half, and I took my dad's suitcase, little brown suitcase, which was made of cardboard, and they were cardboard in them days, sort of cardboardy. And I took some money out of my little box. I had a money box type thing, a couple of quid. And I thought, right, where do I go? And I was on the Hull Road, which was straight to Hull. And we lived in Lamel Street, number 26, which was on the Hull Road. And off I went. When I got there and that, I thought, bold as brass, I saw the ships and that. I asked, where's the Merchant Navy office, this please? They're down there by the docks there, at Poston Gate. I think it was Poston Gate. And I just walked in and said, they asked me, what do you want? What have you come for, lad? I said, I've come to join the Merchant Navy. How old are you? 14 years and 9 months. I said, I'll be 15 in 3 months' time. That'll soon pass. And they said, go home, get your nappies off, and stay at home. I said, but I don't want to go home. I did want to go home, but I don't want to go home today. I want to join the Merchant Navy. You want men, you want boys, don't you? Not at your age. And out I came. It was getting on in the afternoon. It was in July. It was not exactly cold, but I was getting a bit frightened. So I sat on the step, thinking, what the hell? What have I got? I had about 2 pennies in my pocket. I had nothing to eat. I hadn't eaten all day apart from the bread and a few sweets what I'd bought. And I just cried. I was ashamed that I was crying, but I was frightened. I was really frightened. It was getting on in night, and I just didn't know what the hell was happening to me at the moment. and a man came along and stopped and talked and saw me, asked me how I was, am I all right? And I said, no, I'm not, I'm frightened to death. I said, I've come to join the Merchant Navy, but they don't want me. And I was always thinking of what my dad said, and my mum, don't go with strange people. But I was so grateful to go somewhere that when I went in, the doorway was an archway, and in the stone it had Shipwrecked Sailors and Fishermen's Association. And I thought for myself for a split moment, I might have a bit of a chance here. He took me in there and made me a cup of tea and a sandwich. He said, it's getting too late, but I'll ring your dad and your mum now. I said, we haven't got a phone. I said, and I haven't no money to send a telegram anyway, and I haven't got no money to go on the train. And he just said, no, I'm going to put you up for the night. Will you go home in the morning? And I said, yes. If I can get there, I'll hike back. He said, no, I'll put you on the train. And they took me along Esel Road there, and there was I don't know whether it's still there to this day. It was right near where all the fishing boats were, and I was looking at it, I was walking by and I'm thinking, I've got to get to sea, I want to go to sea. I want to see people. But he took me to the Merchant Navy Hotel, took me up the steps, went in. It was run by an elderly lady and gentleman, and they said, we've got a bed for you, and you'll have a meal. You go upstairs and have a bath, and come down, and I did that. And I had my little case with me, I had nothing in it really, not a damn thing, a pair of socks I think I had in it, a pair of white seaman's socks type, submariners type, you know what you turn over on your, on your Wellington boot. I felt like a seaman, you know. I was a seaman in my mind and in my heart. When I came down from a shower, she's come with me and she took me into where the restaurant was. And there was all these men and young boys, even like me, but they were older than I was. And I said, who are these people? They're all merchant seamen off ships, not all English, off different ships from. I said, can I sit with them? I was at, I can't, I can't give you words. I don't know how happy I was. I sat with these men and these lads, and they were talking to me. What ship you? I said, I haven't got one yet. Oh, what you come for? Join the Merchant Navy. Don't do it. Go home, lad. For God's sake, don't do it. And these were elderly men. So I was talking to some of the lads, and they were potato peelers, assistant galley boys, and things like that. I didn't even know what a galley boy was. Didn't know anything like that at all. But I felt this is where I belong. I belong here. Went to bed, got up, got breakfast. I thought, well, I don't know what my dad's going to say when I get back home. Started to walk towards the station, Paragon Station, I think it was called. I don't know because I don't know Hull. And he said, there's only one more place wrong, and it's a remote chance. But I can see that you really are upset about going home. I said, I'm not upset about going home to my mum and dad. I said, but I've got to. How long does it take you to grow up, for God's sake? And I was like that. And it took me to the Norwegian embassy people. He said, if you can't get a job with these, will you go home? Will you give me your word to go? I said, I'll go home, but please give me a try. And they took me into the office, and there was 4 captains sitting on the table, long table, and they were all Norwegian captains. And he asked me to wait outside for a minute or two. I was waiting about half an hour or so. And he called me in, and they were questioning me. and they said, "Why do you want to go? Why do you know there's a war on?" I said, I know of wars, but I don't know anything about a war." I said, I want to go. I want to go travelling. I want to go and see the world. I want to meet people. I said, I just want to go. If you can help me, will you give me a chance? Wait outside. I waited outside again. Called me in. They gave me coffee and tea. I was getting fed and sandwiches and one thing and another. I thought, this is a right good place, is it?
Mm.
And he said, we're going to give you a chance. And I was stuck for words for a second. I really was. And I cried again. It's like I said, I must have a crying tear duct in here. But I'm very emotional on things. I can't help it. I said, "You're going to give me a chance?" I said, "Yeah." "Can you peel potatoes?" And I thought, what a question to ask me that. What the hell do I want to know about a potato? I said, "I can peel any damn thing, whatever you've got." And they gave me that job. And he said, "You're going on a ship, and it's at Immingham." I didn't know where Immingham was. And I honestly didn't have a clue. And he said, "It's just across the river where we are, down at the dockside there." And I thought, well, how the hell do I get over there? Because I thought, it would be here sort of thing, in Hull, on this side of Hull. He said, you'll go by train. So the train, well, I was thinking of the River Humber. Where the hell is the railway station on that? Mm. But it happened like that.
And this was the Astrid. This was
and
you served in the Astrid for much of the war.
Quite a lot.
So that led to what must be one of the most extraordinary periods of the war for you in terms of being involved in the Atlantic convoys and in the Arctic convoys, and I think you did a convoy into the Mediterranean as well. Mm. And these were some of the most atrocious conditions of anything in the war over those 3 years.
But I didn't know that.
You didn't know that then, but you soon got to learn it, presumably. Because I think I'm right in saying you did 10 Atlantic convoys and 12 Arctic convoys. Yeah. And
well, they classed it as 25. That's why they gave me the little emblem. It was like like a pilot did so many jaunts, and he got a
sorties.
Sorties. If he survived, they took him off or something or other, or give him a bar thing. It was something to do with like that, and that was presented about 70 odd years after the war. He put me on. He gave me £5 with this man, because I didn't have no. I still had tuppence in my pocket, but he gave me £5. And I can remember shaking his hand when he put me on the train. I said, I will repay this, and I did. But he wasn't there when I came, years later. When I went to Immingham, it was dark. I was on the dockside. I was looking at my paper. What was that on the doors and that? And looking along. I found where I had to go. Walked in. Saw a beautiful ship. And I was thinking to myself, gosh, like the Queen Mary is this. This is going to be great. Walked up the gangplank, and it was a Chinese ship.
Okay, not the Astrid.
No. And there was a watchman on board. Come up and asked me what I'm looking for the Astrid. He said, he's up forward. And I said, forward? Oh, you mean forward? He said, yes, forward. So I came down and I went walking along this ship, just like walking along here. And at the end there, no bigger than what it looked like your phone. I thought, God almighty, it can't be this. And it was the Astrid. And she was a newish ship. She'd been built on the Clyde on the east coast. Grey shipyards, I think they call them. And that was the first time I saw the Astrid. So for a while, we were doing nothing but going up to Blyth and in the Clyde and that, and across the wreck of it and come back. And on the December of 42, That's what all that ship did. In December the 42, Captain Thorvald Messel, the legendary Norwegian skipper, and he is a legend. You want to get him on a cod pass.
If he's still with us.
No, he's died. He's died in London.
I don't have that ability to people beyond the grave.
Well, you're letting me down a bit here.
I let a lot. Ron, I let a lot of people down.
No, you
Take
don't.
my word.
No, you don't. But when he came on board, the crew were never ever told where we were going or what we were going to carry. We never knew until we got into the dock. But we learnt a lesson. I learnt a lot. There was a lad on there, a Scots lad. He was Scottish, aye. Really Scotty. Well, they call him Scotty as well. And he befriended me. He was a wireless operator, an apps wireless operator. And he was in a cabin which was 2, and I was number 2. And we became very close, good friends, good mates. He helped me a lot. He taught me a lot. And I depended on him a lot. And I said, well, do you know where we're off, Sparks, or what? He says, not yet, no. We left Immingham. I thought, where the hell are we going? Are we going up north or where? We were going to Canada, not to Canada, to Iceland again, Reykjavik. And then on to up the Denmark Straits, into Reykjavik, out, and into Bedford Basin, which is more or less opposite Greenland, southern end of Greenland. And when we turned into there, there was possibly 30, 40 ships, all anchored, all different places. But what I didn't know, it was the meeting place of ships that were going to go on convoy further from where they were.
Muster Point. Yeah.
That's because that's what we did. We came out of there, went to Halifax, then back again, then we went down the Hudson. And it was then Spark said to me, he said, do you know where we're going, Ron? I said, well, you said America. He said, yeah, we're going down to Montreal first, going up to Montreal, and then we're going into New York. I said, oh, fair enough. He said, but we're going home where you were born. And I said, Jamaica's not in America. I am that clue. He said, no. He said, it's the Caribbean. I said, we're going to go to the Caribbean now after we've been, yep. So we went into New York, stayed there for a couple of days or so. We didn't unload anything. Came out of there and we went straight down to Jamaica. I sat in the bow of that ship all night long and I could smell it. I could smell the land when I got near to it. And I could see all of the glow, you know, like seeing the glow when it's all over the horizon.
Yeah.
And I thought, Christ almighty, they'll get bombed to hell. Because when I left here, it was blackout.
It was blackout, yeah.
There was a war on, but it was lit up like Disneyland. And and he also wrote, did this young man, and he got me on the front page. You want to help me? You help me with this one, and I'll be your friend for life. Because I've got one paper. It's just the daily, it's a Jamaican Daily Express, and I'm on the front page there when I was 14 and 9 months. Young, I love this bit. Good looking, he says. Should have seen me there, I look like a bowl of porridge.
He's still good looking now, Ron.
Oh, Christ. I've not have any money. He got me on the front page, and I've still got but it's a bit tattered and torn, you can't hardly read it. But I did send a letter to them one time, in peacetime. I would gladly buy one if you could print me one, let me know what it costs, I'll get the money and I'll pay you. But I never got a reply. Anyway, that's where it was. We went there.
Just fast forwarding a little bit through the war, because
right.
I mean that was fascinating how it all came to be.
It was.
But I know that some of the most arduous journeys you did were up around Russia, providing
Yeah.
supplies. And just for context here, the Battle Atlantic was the longest campaign of World War II, providing vital food, supplies, men, material to an isolated Britain at the time, and a situation that Winston Churchill used to say was the only thing that kept him awake at night, the U-boat menace. But you were part of breaking that, so across the Atlantic. And tell us about one of the Arctic convoys, because I think there were other enemies other than the Nazis then. There was ice.
There was, yes. When we went on the Arctic, we were on the JW. I'm not quite sure. Remember, I can't put my finger on whether it was this particular one. And it depended on what ship you were on. And the Astrid was a slow ship. We were always seemed to be in SC convoys. And with it being a JW, which I don't know what it stood for, JW, I've never found out. I'd love to know, but I don't know what it is. Slow convoys went at the slowest speed of the slowest ship. But when we got to Russia, there was nothing there. It was there was no buildings like what we see here and they had no equipment. You couldn't go alongside something unless it was an old broken pier. And you used to try and get the ship in shallow water as possible, but if it was frozen, it was sometimes maybe 100 foot off it. But they used to come down, and the Russian people, I've never met people like it in my life. Even young kids like this, pulling the ropes, corrugated iron, along like a sledge. Women, you couldn't tell they were women because they were head to toe in big fur, mainly black types, fur bear coats and that. And they put a guard on the gangplank. You could go down as far as the bottom, but you couldn't really go ashore, or even wander about. Well, there was nothing there. And they used to come alongside you when you were lucky to be alongside somewhere and unload you. If you didn't, they'd come out with little boats. And how the hell they did it? All the time they were doing this, 90% of the time you had Stuka bombers, the Stuka fighters, Junkers and Ankles. And it was, to put it bluntly, it was bloody pandemonium. But you got into a system of working, you just didn't bother. I used to hide. As soon as I heard the siren go, the wailing siren, I was up where the galley was, because it was thick iron. And I thought, well, the bullets can't go through this, but they could, certain ones. It was cold. You couldn't sleep. I never slept. None of us slept. It was. I would never go back to Russia like that again in the war. They'd have to hang me. I would never do it.
But it's a good thing you did, because had you not, and all of your colleagues not done that, and those supplies had not reached Russia, it's quite possible they may not have been able to maintain the Eastern Front, which was crucial to helping win the war. So, all of us owe you a debt of gratitude for that.
Well, I'll go along with that because it's quite true what you said actually. But when I was like I was just a lad. I was at sea. I was where I wanted to be, but I didn't want to be shot at with really great machine guns and Stukas with bloody whistles on the wheel, frightening the life out of me. And I thought, no, this type of thing is not for me. And then we came back and we got the same treatment. There was a few, every time you saw a convoy, sometimes often you were lucky. You never saw a U-boat at all. You never got a ship sunk, but it was rare. It was when oil and the tankers went to Archangel, that was worse than Murmansk. But Murmansk has always been brought forward. I don't know why. It's like the Merchant Navy has never been recognised properly. Never ever. And it isn't to this day. They don't recognise it. One day, 3rd of September, that's your glory day. Where's the flags? There is none. No shops fly our flags. RAF, Royal Navy, no disrespect, because we honoured the Royal Navy. We always had a banter between us, RN and the MN. We was a scuff bag.
I'm just going to switch, if you don't mind,
So,
briefly
no, not
to
at all. Not at all.
my other guest, Captain Bill Oliphant, General Secretary, Chief Exec of the Royal Naval Association, who enjoyed a distinguished 37-year career in the Grey Funnel Line. I'm tempted to say, Bill, match that. Did you ever experience any Arctic convoys in your time, or anything like that whatsoever? Tell us about why you joined the Navy. And
Mike, I do have a very funny story about coldness, which I'm very happy to share with you, but it's almost irreverent, because I feel so humble sitting here next to Ron, talking about genuine hardship.
Don't say that. You did the same as me.
Well, not quite.
well, I've served with Bill, and I know that's not true.
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't true. But I had a very funny thing, Ron, which I will share with you, which was I was working with the Amphibious Task Group, and this must have been January or February of 2005, and we had the Royal Marines always used to go up to North Norway to do their winter training during that time of year, and the Amphibious Task Group would always do an exercise with them. But on this particular year, both of our amphibious ships were unavailable. One of them was in refit, and the other one was away chasing pirates off the Horn of Africa at the time. So we didn't have a command platform. So we did our command and control piece ashore. We set up a sort of classroom in a base in Asagarden, north of Narvik. And the Royal Marines, bless them, they thought these matlows coming to the land, duty of care, we've got to give them a wee bit of Arctic survival training. So I remember it well. We had 3 nights out on the ground, and the first 2 nights were perfectly civilized because we had Arctic sleeping bags and tents and things like that. Yeah.
Cold up there.
But the last night was the survival shelter thing. And my boss, the commander of the Amphibious Task Group at the time, became the first Sea Lord after that. George Zambellis, his name was. And he was doing it with us as well. And that night, to spice things up a bit, they took our sleeping bags off us as well. So as you can imagine, it was the longest and the coldest night ever, as we tried to huddle together in this shelter. There must have been about 6 or 8 of us in this wee shelter that we'd built. And it must have been about 3:15 in the morning or something like that when I heard the immortal words from George Zambellis. He said, "Bill, I haven't had to order this of a naval officer before, but could you move a bit closer?"
Well, thank you, Bill. I thank you for that. I now presented an image I want to try and get rid of.
Sorry.
But a nice try, but I'm afraid nowhere near the Arctic convoys.
No, not in the slightest. Not in the
Bill,
slightest.
Ron, I'd like to come back to you and just fast forward to the end of the war now, because
That's all right.
we're sort of, you've 3 years of crossing the Atlantic 10 times each way, 12 convoys up to Russia. You did one in defence of Malta in the Mediterranean. But then when Germany surrendered in May 1945, there was, I don't think you had met a submarine, a German submarine before, and then suddenly, all of a sudden, you met 6 of them.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
We weren't coming from Russia when this happened. We were coming from America. As we were coming across, we were all, thank God we got here, because we were home, nearly home. But one of the lads shouted out, "There's U-boats." And I said, "Did he say U-boats or U-boat?" He said, "There's U-boats up there, these Norwegian." They didn't, truthfully, there was only Scottish spoke English, well, English, Scottish, you know,
Sure.
but all the rest was Norwegian. That's another story, but he was shouting it out and we looked, and I said, "Who's got the binoculars?" That got them, and I looked, and there was 6 U-boats, all one behind the other, and I thought, oh God, we're finished. We've had it. They've all this way. We've got almost home, and I thought, well, there's no sharks around here. I'll swim. I thought I could swim the Atlantic, but when you saw it, you know. But and I went in my cabin and I sat in there and I was shaking, and I thought, and I heard one of the lads shout, "Get out! Come out! Come out!" They called me young'un, the Norwegian, a young un. I don't know what the hell that meant, or Yorkie. Yeah, young'un, come out! Come out! And I came out, and these boats were putting a white flag up.
Surrendering.
We didn't know. We didn't know the war was over. Oh, there was no. Once you start crossing, there was no communication on radios at all that we knew of, and I'd never heard a skipper on the radio. And Thorvald came down, and he said, "The war's over, lads. It's finished."
In Europe.
And these are going down, they're surrendering and going down that river, what you said.
Limavady.
Yeah.
In
And
Northern Ireland.
we had to go down. They had to go down to London, Derry, to get a bit more fuel on. Because Ashley was a cold burner, but she was only small. And we used to carry the coal on the decking outside, all around the stern, and piled up. And then the firemen, I used to help them. I used to like mucking in. And when they were started going down there, they all set off and they were laughing and joking. The crew were on the deck. And I'm looking at them and I'm thinking to myself, and I was truly thinking this, they're just like me. All this time you're looking for something that you can't see, but they're going to kill you if they hit you. But if they don't hit you, you might get home. I never ever got home. I never got home for 4.5 odd years. I mean, to my house, my dad and mum. And we followed them down, and 2 or 3 of the other boats that were going to London there, I suppose. And when we got down there quite a way, they were all in fingers like that,
rafted up
alongside. This was the quayside.
Yeah.
They're like that.
Yeah.
All the way up. There must have been 180 to 100 ships. You know, it would be difficult to say what it was. And they were even on shore as well. That some were lifted out. Yeah. You know, we found out now. I don't know whether this is true or not, but it's never been changed in my mind. Southern Ireland used to refill U-boats during the war because they wanted war, and yet there was a naval base just further up. You know, a big Royal Navy base. I don't know what name it was. And that's what we saw there. And then the next day we came out of there and continued on the way. What happened to them, I don't know.
There's one other episode I'd like to reflect on, which is how you got arrested in York following at the end of the war.
I had come back from Russia.
Yeah, so tell us about why you got arrested in York, because I think this is quite interesting.
Well, we had come back from Russia, and I was going south to go and get another ship. And I thought I'd go and see my mum and dad. And I hadn't. You couldn't get just off a boat in Tilbury and get on a bus or a train and go, "I'm going to go home," and that. It just didn't happen like that. There was no trains hardly. The place was bombed to bits. You just stayed where you was. And the first thing my mother said when I walked through the door, "Where the hell have you been?" And I said, because she hadn't seen me.
Sure.
She said, I've been worried sick. Your dad's worried sick.
I'm not surprised.
Why didn't you write? I said, I couldn't write. How can you write? He used to say the journey across could vary between 10 and 12 days there and back to Lock You, depending on the convoy's speed and the time of year. But getting back to this, getting arrested, she said, the Red Caps have been here 2 or 3 times. I said, what for? I said, has my dad been up to anything? You know, and I really did. I thought, because he's a soldier, and that he's at the War Office in Fishergate. And they said no. And if you came home, she said, they've said, would you tell me to bring your body down to Minfield Barracks on Fulford Road? I said, I'll go all right. Don't you worry about that. I'll be back in about 2 hours, Mum. I never saw her. I went down to the barracks, walked into the guard room, and I said, I think you're looking for me. What's your name, this sergeant? Ron Syson. And he's looking for you never turn up, you call up. We've got to arrest you. I said, well, I'll go over and tell my mum you're arresting me and my dad, and he'll sort you out. Because I thought my dad could cure everything. And he said, you won't be going anywhere, lad. He said, you're going in a cell. And they put me in a cell, but they'd already examined what I had, and I had me merchant TID card. They weren't like what they are today. In the wartime, there was 5 pages of them, buff coloured, thumbprints and that. You had to have them when you got to New York. You know, and the FBI were on the gangways. You had to have them. And he knew I was a merchant seaman, and he said, you shouldn't be here, really. I said, right, well, I'm off home, but I didn't get home. They said, we won't lock the they were calling me Ron then, not Mr. Syson. And I thought, oh, they're getting soft, so I'm off home when I've had a cup of cocoa or something. And they didn't lock the door, and an adjutant or a colonel, high rank came in. And he said, I'd like to apologise for you to be locked up like this. I said, I'm not locked up, sir. I said, but I think you've got a damn cheek calling me up. I said, I'm not really well myself, and I won't pass the exam, and I won't pass the medical. And he said, we are the army. And when the army gives an order, we have to obey it. So I said, well, what are you going to do with me? He said, tomorrow morning, you'll be taken to the station under escort. And she's going to take me under escort to the station with handcuffs on. Yeah, and they put, you know, your coat, you handcuff you like that, and they put the coat over the ankles so that you're walking down the street, in the main street, walking like that. You might as well put your hands out and said a bloody prayer. He said, yes.
You probably
I said,
did.
what, in handcuffs? He said, would you give me a word you won't run away? I said, I would give you my word and I'd keep it. I said, but no, I don't think I should have to do that. I said, I've done nothing wrong, nothing at all. He said, I can't go into it all. He said, it's not my, whatever it was. I ended up in Budbrook Barracks near Birmingham, in the guard room. Oh, we've been waiting for you. When they heard the story and saw my papers, they said, what the hell are you doing here? Do you know how long it took them? 5 months. But it's like I said to my dad, because he laughed like Kells later on. I got to like it. I was getting to like the comradeship.
How old were you then, at that stage?
18.
About 18.
Good
18
God.
years of age.
And you've done more in the 3 years before that than most people have done in a lifetime.
Exactly.
I mean, it's an extraordinary story.
It's,
It is.
my father used to say, don't tell them, not just the army, anybody, if you know something and you know it inside out, keep it to yourself. And if the job entails it where you're going to use what you know, just do the job, but do it well. Let them see you think in their mind, and it did work.
You don't
He's
really-
good. Look at that. It's the first time you've done that. You're not lying to them, are you? Because you're not saying anything. If they'd have said, have you done all this before? I would have said, yes, I have.
If I'm honest with you, I could listen to you all day. I think your stories are extraordinary, and I think that when we use the term "the greatest generation" to apply to your generation, I think you sit on top of that as the greatest.
God
generation.
Almighty, no.
I'm just going to leave Bill to come back to you to talk about
By all means.
the Royal Naval Association.
Yeah.
And then I think you've got something.
I just wanted to say first, if I may, Mike, you're 18 by the time the army caught up with you. That's when I joined the Royal Navy.
Oh, really?
At the tender age
It's
of
a
18.
coincidence, isn't it?
Well, you'd already had 3 years
Well,
Of the
yeah.
main-
traipsing backwards and forwards up and down to Murmansk and across the pond and into the Mediterranean as well. It's just remarkable.
preventing this country from being starved.
Yeah.
Supplying
absolutely.
Russia,
Yeah.
keeping the war effort going. I don't think we can. There's no way we can bring some sense of perspective to how much what you did was crucial to the winning the war.
But there wasn't only me, you know, Mike.
Well, I know that.
No, you know what I mean.
I know that.
I lost
But you're 98.
10 mates.
You're
You're
representative.
probably one of the youngest surviving World War II veterans still
Christ.
going.
Yeah.
But you're representing hundreds of thousands of people no longer with us, who also did momentous things, the greatest generation. So the
I
country
didn't look
owes
at it
you
like
so
that.
much, and I know that you've had some small recognition in 2013 when the Prime Minister gave you the Arctic Star on top of the Atlantic Star you already had, and then you met President Putin for the first time.
I met him, yeah.
Yeah, and he gave you the
Only once.
Lushakov Medal, which is very, very few people have got.
One of them I didn't get there because my heart failed me, and I got my doctors to send them a letter to tell them that I can't make it on that occasion, and I think I'm not sure which one it was now. One it was the star, not the star, the other one, the silver thing, silver one.
Atlantic Star.
No,
No.
the
Well,
what the Oshikov one.
okay, Lushakov. But you've got that to show us later. I'd like to just finish by turning to Bill and just tell us a bit about the Royal Navy Association and,
So
and
yes,
its support for people like Ron, and then I think you've got something to give.
so the Royal Naval Association, as it suggests, is primarily for Royal Navy serving and former serving, but we also it's got a royal charter, which the association was formed in 1950 after the war, and of course the King got to hear about it and said, "Look, I think I ought to be the patron. I'm a sailor after all," and of course the association was very thankful for that. And then somebody said, "Well, if the King's going to be the patron, then there really ought to be a royal charter." And sadly, the King died in February '52, and it was in the long grass. And we didn't get the charter until the Queen came to the throne. So it's the Queen's name that's on it, but it talks about our naval forces, and part of our naval forces are the Merchant Navy, who have the Veterans Badge, which of course you certainly do, along with your medals that you've got from Putin and the former Prime Minister, quite rightly, for what you've done for the country. So I'm absolutely delighted because, Ron, back 5 years ago, the National Council of
Could
the
you
Royal
read that for me, please?
Yes, of course. It says, it's a certificate I'm giving you here. It says the Royal Naval Association, as a mark of esteem and appreciation, life membership has been awarded to Ron Syson as a mark of the esteem and respect in which you are held as a World War II veteran. And it's signed by Duncan Potts, Vice Admiral, Royal Navy, who is the national president of the association. So I'm very proud to be able to give you your life membership of the Royal Naval Association, which isn't quite the Ushkov Medal or the Atlantic Star,
I don't.
but nevertheless.
I don't know more medals.
So you need to live another 25 years to make the most of this. as it's a life membership. The way you're going, I don't see any problem with that.
But you know what you did and what your generation did.
I'm honest. I really, I don't know what to say.
Well, you've said.
I don't know. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you very much.
It's us that need to thank you and your generation, Ron, for the sacrifices that your generation made, and
It's not just for me. This so it is personally. I'll keep it to the day I die. But a lot of good men died.
well, the other important thing is that I'm going to introduce you to Peter today, who's the chairman of the York branch of the Royal Naval Association, and we're really rather hoping that that you'll come and be part of the association, not just me coming to say hello to you today, but actually through the comradeship.
Yeah,
that,
it's part of the family, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Aaron
exactly.
and that.
And you are part of our family as a merchant seaman. It's desperately important for you to understand that you are part
Thank
of our
you.
family.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. So there we have it. An extraordinary double bill. One of the surviving members of the Greatest Generation, Ron Syson, extraordinary bravery from the ages of 14 and 3/4 onwards. And also, pleasure to have Captain Bill Oliphant, who's the General Secretary of the RNA, to make this presentation to him. I hope you've enjoyed watching or listening to this episode, and watch out for it on channels near where you come from. Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you, man.
You're very welcome. Thank you. And thank you, all of you, for the time you've given me. I won't forget it. I'll never forget.